The Chinese Communist Party could invade Taiwan as early as this spring. They're already trying to mess with Taiwan's election, and foreign investors are starting to get out of China. Then more on this week's China News headlines. Welcome to China Uncensored. I'm Chris Chappell. This episode is sponsored by Surfshark. Whenever you go online, you should be using a VPN like Surfshark to cover your tracks and protect your identity. I'll tell you more at the end. Welcome to 2024 and Happy New Year is the message Chinese leader Xi Jinping has given everyone at his annual greeting, and he just wants you to know reunification with Taiwan is inevitable. Well, I guess we know what his New Year's resolution is. Why couldn't he pick something normal like quit smoking, quit drinking, or quit being an authoritarian maniac bent on global domination? But you know who agrees with Xi? Eric Prince, the American military contractor who founded Blackwater. He told a news outlet that China is likely to attack Taiwan in spring of 2024. Why? Because in his view, the Biden administration has lost international credibility, especially after the bungled military pullout of Afghanistan. And also the US is too busy dealing with wars in Ukraine and Israel. And China would be a fool to not take advantage of that kind of strategic opportunity. Prince said it must feel like the door is wide open for them to do whatever it is they want to do. So, figuratively, it's high time for the Biden administration to close that door, and literally, since strong gusts of wind are dangerous for old Joe. Now, I'm not saying Eric Prince is necessarily right about the invasion timeline, but the Chinese regime's threats to Taiwan have definitely increased over the last several years, and it's reaching a fever pitch. Taiwan has a presidential election coming up on January 13th. The DPP, the Democratic Progressive Party, has led Taiwan's government for the last 8 years. They want to win again, and a big part of their campaign is standing up to the Chinese Communist Party. And as you can imagine, the CCP is totally cool with that. They actively encourage anyone not happy with them to go ahead and step inside their suggestion room. Here's a picture of it. Yeah. No. Obviously, the Chinese regime does not like the DPP or its new candidate, William Lai. They want one of the candidates from the other two major parties to win, which is why a top Chinese official is urging/threatening Taiwan's people to make the correct choice in the upcoming election. Although really, when it comes right down to it, everything China urges is technically a threat. Anyone who disagrees with them can always speak out in the suggestion room. So what happens if the Taiwanese people make the wrong choice? Well, the CCP wants everyone to fear that if Taiwan stands up to the CCP, that will trigger an invasion. That's why over the past 8 years, the CCP has increased its threats, for example, with more military incursions near Taiwan. But the CCP has not actually invaded, and it's entirely possible they haven't invaded because Taiwan keeps standing up to them. Of course, regardless of who wins the election next week, it's anyone's guess when or whether the CCP will actually launch the invasion they've been rehearsing. But one thing I will predict, whatever the CCP wants you to do, it's best to do the opposite of that. Even if the CCP just told me to eat more broccoli, I'd be like, what did you do to the broccoli? And after the break, the CCP also has its design set on America in the new year. Welcome back. I don't know about you, but here in New York, I celebrated New Year's Eve by watching the ball drop in Times Square, big crowds, live music, B-list celebrities, all on the television from the comfort of my living room. Of course, such a great event wouldn't be possible without lots and lots of funding each year.
We'd also like to thank our partners, Carnival Cruise Line, Fontainebleau Las Vegas, Kay Jewelers, Kia, and the Sino-American Friendship Association.
Wait, what? The Sino-American Friendship Association? That's a CCP front group. This would be like if during the Cold War in the 1970s, you saw New York's New Year's Eve sponsored by fuzzy Soviet hats and Moscow mules. Although, to be fair, those would be good options to stay warm in Times Square in the winter. It turns out the Sino-American Friendship Association sponsors lots of events in New York City, not just the New Year's Eve event in Times Square, but also the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade and the Evening of Chinese Culture at a Mets game. 2 of those 3 have a large audience. The Sino-American Friendship Association has real influence. For example, they organize trips for mayors of U.S. cities to visit China, where they meet with the United Front Work Department. That's the CCP's main organ to influence politics overseas. The United Front Work Department is such a front for shady dealings, they put front right in the name. They make it so obvious people think, no way they would be that upfront with it, would they? Yeah, that's why the front is in front, right up front. A decade ago, the Sino-American Friendship Association paid for Brooklyn Borough President Eric Adams to visit China. 8 years later, he was elected mayor of New York City. Now, I'm not saying Mayor Eric Adams is bought and paid for by the Chinese Communist Party. But one of his top aides who helped him win the Chinese vote also gets Chinese Communist cash through her other consulting work. And that same aide also attended a New Year's Eve event hosted by the office of a Chinese official who has repeatedly praised the Chinese government and denied the Uyghur genocide. So, not a great look for the mayor. But it could be the start of a great year for the Chinese Communist Party. Might also be a great year for the Chinese electric vehicle maker BYD. As of last quarter, they're selling more electric cars than Tesla. In 2023, BYD sold over 1.5 million electric vehicles, mostly overseas, sent to places like Europe and Australia. Now, whatever you think of Elon Musk, I'd rather drive a Tesla than a BYD car made in China. I'd even rather be on a social media platform run by Elon Musk than one run in China. The problem is, Chinese electric cars can be used to spy on you on behalf of the Chinese regime. Did you just publicly criticize the CCP? I wonder why your Chinese electric car suddenly won't start. Well, I guess it's better that it won't start than it won't stop. Despite BYD's success, the Chinese economy as a whole is not doing well. Chinese workers suffered the biggest drop in hiring salaries on record last quarter. That shows you just how bad unemployment is. Too many people are desperately competing for not enough jobs. That means employers can make salaries lower and lower. That may sound like it's good for Chinese companies, but it's not. It's a reflection of much deeper problems in the Chinese economy. It will soon translate to lower sales, and therefore less profit for everyone. It's a race to the bottom, and everyone has high-speed BYD cars that think they just criticized the CCP. Meanwhile, foreign investors are slowly starting to realize just how bad things are for the Chinese economy. Last month, they accelerated their China equity sell-off. In other words, they sold off tons of stocks in Chinese companies. That headline refers to long-only investments. What that means is the faith foreign investors had that Chinese companies were going to do well long-term has gone straight out the window. Foreign investors pulled out $3.8 billion in December, making it the third largest monthly outflow on record. We could be seeing the beginning of a much larger foreign decoupling from China. They used to look at China like marriage material. Now they see them as a fling at best. Pretty soon they'll be downgraded to tryst, and eventually ghosted altogether, which will only make China's economy worse and worse. And after the break, no one can win with Chinese video games. Welcome back. As I mentioned in a previous episode, the trial of Hong Kong media executive Jimmy Lai began just before Christmas. He ran a pro-democracy newspaper until authorities shut it down. Because of course they did. Running a pro-democracy newspaper in China is like running a pro-Jedi blog on the Death Star. Lai is now accused of crimes that harm China's so-called national security. This week he officially pled not guilty to the charges, which is exactly what a guilty person would do. Case closed. Specifically, those charges include collusion with foreign forces, conspiracy to collude with foreign forces, and sedition. Among other things, they're accusing him of meeting with U.S. officials back in 2019, people like Mike Pence and Nancy Pelosi. Which, okay, he did, but the accusation is that he tried to convince them to sanction China. I don't know if that part is true, but even if it is, that was still perfectly legal in 2019. Is it unjust to charge him with something that was legal at the time? It doesn't really matter since Jimmy Lai has been denied trial by jury. His case will be decided only by government-appointed judges. And with national security cases in Hong Kong, there's a 100% conviction rate. If you want to learn more about how national security cases are prosecuted in Hong Kong, you can't. Because this week the Hong Kong Department of Justice deleted the entire National Security Case Index from its website. What's crazy is they had only published that case index last week. At the time, they made a big stink to the press about their efforts to be open and transparent. When questioned by Hong Kong Free Press, the Justice Department did not respond when asked why the content was removed and whether it would be restored. The Hong Kong government is a complete farce. The Chinese Communist Party doesn't just censor sensitive court cases, though. They also censor video games. Over the last few years, they put in lots of rules to increase their control over gaming. For example, in 2020, they blocked the game Animal Crossing because players were using its customization features to promote Hong Kong democracy. They also put on time limits, like banning kids from playing online games for more than 3 hours a week. Which, by the way, is not about protecting kids from too much screen time. It's about protecting kids from too many foreign ideas. Also, the Communist Party thinks games are a waste of time, when the worker bees should really be out maximizing production. Come on, people, put down Minecraft and go to work in the actual mines. Anyway, this week, China removed the top Communist Party official in charge of video games. He was the head of the publishing unit of the Communist Party's publicity department, which oversees publishing and propaganda. That includes video games, apparently. He was sacked after his department proposed new rules for games, which included capping how much money people could donate to video game streamers. The rule was certainly in line with the CCP's main tenet, not giving too much power to the people. But here's the problem. After the rules were proposed, it wiped nearly $80 billion off the market value of China's two biggest gaming companies. So really, there was no winning for that guy. Only bad choices. Which is basically the story of how things are everywhere in China right now. Specifically, Xi's New Year's resolution. And if you like gaming, I suggest you check out this episode about why you like to be bad according to Warhammer Darktide. It's on my new channel, Gamers Unbeaten, where every week I publish a new episode of Deep Thoughts while gaming. And this episode is sponsored by Surfshark. When you go online, everything you do is potentially compromised, unless you're taking active steps to protect yourself. No matter where you live, no matter what you do online, you should always be keeping your internet activity private with a VPN like Surfshark. Here's just one of many reasons. When websites track you, they collect your browsing history and personal information, and a lot of them use that info to charge you higher prices. This is called price discrimination. That's technically legal, but so is fighting back. It works like this. Let's say you're shopping for airline tickets. You see a price, but close your browser before buying because you need time to decide. But that website remembers that you're interested, so their algorithm predicts that if you come back, you'd be willing to pay higher prices. So they might jack up the price, just because they can. It's the same thing with hotels and rental cars. It can even depend on where the website thinks you're from. You might be charged more if it thinks you're from a rich country like Austria, and much less if it thinks you're from the Czech Republic. But when you use Surfshark to change your IP address and begin your search in a private browser tab, you're much more likely to get the lowest prices. So it's worth it to check out Surfshark. With just one account, you can connect as many devices as you want. Try it out because right now you can get the Surfshark winter deal. Go to surfshark.com/uncensored and get up to 6 additional months for free. That's surfshark.com/uncensored and use the code uncensored. The link is in the description. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. Thanks for watching China Uncensored.